Thomas Tuchel is the new England national team manager.
Thomas Tuchel, the new manager of England.
You would think that after years of criticizing Southgate, English fans would be over the moon.
People accepting the fact that perhaps he is a mediocre manager with an embarrassment of riches and the fortune of Job to have got draws that we've got, to have got to the positions that we've got in tournaments.
A top quality manager to match the level of talent on the pitch. But the reaction has been the complete opposite.
Thomas Tuchel, who neither of you wanted, let's be fair, you both wanted an England manager, an English manager.
It just doesn't feel right to me that we have a foreign coach.
I'm shocked tonight that England have appointed an international coach.
They've literally thrown a grenade into their entire new ethos.
So why is the appointment of a manager who has won the Champions League seen as so controversial? Hiring a foreign manager for the England national team isn't something new. It's already happened twice for England. The first one was Sven-Göran Eriksson. Coming in as the first foreign manager ever for England, the reaction was even worse than what you were seeing for Tuchel.
We don't do results, of course. They will try to hang me, but even if I was an Englishman, they hang me. So that's...
Even though his CV was solid, there was hesitation about the appointment. Not just because he wasn't English, but because he was coming off the back of a disappointing season with Lazio, where he was asked by the president to resign after being 11 points behind their rivals, Roma. Beginning under Sven, there were some great moments of joy, such as England beating Germany 5-1 in Munich, and of course, David Beckham's free kick against Greece to send England directly to the 2002 World Cup. But there was a lot of pressure on Sven, because he was managing the golden generation of England.
I think the pressure at that time was very, very big that we should go to the final.
As a result, he was always under intense scrutiny due to the high expectations. There was definitely a lot of things that Sven could have done better. He could have just dropped some of the bigger names when it was obvious that they wouldn't fit into his system, rather than trying to shoehorn them in like what he was doing with Paul Scholes, playing one of the best central midfielders ever on the wing.
I don't know what it was. It was totally different, because maybe we had the players in the middle of the pitch at United who could control the game, and that helps you when you start left-hand side.
And you can go.
Yeah, you can do what you want, basically. Yeah. With England, I never felt there was that kind of control in midfield where you could relax a little bit.
He should have been able to get more out of the combo of Steven Gerrard and Frank Lampard. As well, England always looked toothless when they went behind. Under Sven's management, they lost to North Ireland for the first time since 1972 in a World Cup qualifying match, relied on a Beckham free kick to bail them out against Ecuador in the round of 16 of the 2006 World Cup, and so on. But at the same time, England lost to a lot of top nations during his tenure. In the 2002 World Cup, they lost to a Brazil team who ended up winning the entire thing. England definitely could have played better, especially after Dino was sent off, but at the end of the day, it was still a star-studded Brazil squad. In Euro 2004, they lost on pens to Portugal, who had their own golden generation at the time. In the 2006 World Cup, they lost on penalties again to Portugal. The infamous Wayne Rooney and Cristiano Ronaldo wink game. Yeah, I just know the United locker room was very awkward when he first came back to England.
They are not my friends.
A point that I don't see discussed enough is that while England did have a golden generation of players, so did a lot of the other top nations. Brazil, France, Portugal, Italy. All of these countries also had super talented players at the same period of time. When Sven left, he was labeled as a failure, but statistically, he had improved England's FIFA World Ranking place from 17th place in January of 2001 to 5th in July of 2006, reaching 4th during their 2006 World Cup, and was rated in 2007 by the FA as England's second most successful manager after Alf Ramsey. Funny enough, England actually failed to qualify at all for the 2008 Euros under Sven's replacement, Steve McLaren. The second international coach was Fabio Capello. He was a much bigger name than Sven. Just like Tuchel, Capello had won the Champions League. He had managed superstars like Gullit, Maldini, and Van Basten in Milan, and had coached the Galacticos at Madrid. Tuchel, of course, managed Neymar and Mbappe at PSG. At the time, the Capello appointment was seen as a triumph. I mean, this was a nation that had just failed to qualify for the Euros, yet landed one of the most talented managers at the time. Of course, he still had to learn the English language, but you look at his resume and he was one of the best in the world. Capello transformed the team. They won all their qualifying games for the 2010 World Cup, and had gone from a team that couldn't make it to the Euros to World Cup contenders. But again, the pressure got to them. England drew their opening 2 games, leading to questions about the team's spirit, tactics, and ability to handle pressure. They did progress to the next round, but were embarrassed by Germany, losing 4-1. Now Southgate went further than both of these guys. But you can make the argument that both Sven and Capello were eliminated from major tournaments by top nations. The Germany side Capello lost to is very different from the Germany side that Southgate beat in the 2020 Euros. You look at Sven's tenure, he was eliminated twice by the golden generation of Portugal. I actually think Southgate did a great job, especially in changing the vibe around the team. During the golden generation days, there was a lot of lingering tension between the players due to their loyalty to their respective clubs.
It just became an unwritten kind of conduct, really. And it was the same with Stevie. When I was with England, Stevie, when we was battling for them for the Premier League, I didn't want to really sit around him and be around him because I just didn't want to hear what Liverpool was doing.
But it sounds like what you're saying is you were putting club above country because you were so bothered about winning for your club. And I'm watching you thinking, can you win for the country?
But it was subconsciously.
But in terms of results, you could argue that the reason that Southgate's England made it so far was because they pretty much avoided much of the top nations until very late in the tournament. 2018 World Cup, England beat Colombia on pens in the round of 16. And it's not like they were playing the 2014 Colombia either. They beat Sweden, then as soon as they played one of the tougher nations in Croatia, they lost. Euro 2020, they did beat Germany. Although once again, this was one of the weaker German teams we've seen in a major tournament. Then they beat Ukraine, Denmark, then lost to Italy. I'm not saying Denmark isn't good, by the way. I'm just saying compare 2020 Denmark to 2002 Brazil, or 2004 Portugal, or 2010 Germany. Then in the 2024 Euros, they beat Slovakia, barely, beat Switzerland, barely, won against the Netherlands, which was impressive, then they lost to Spain. And it's not like the football was any better. Southgate had his own golden generation, and they scraped their way to the final. Considering they went into the Euros with the Premier League Player of the Year, the Premier League Young Player of the Year, the La Liga Player of the Season, and the Golden Boot winner in Europe, it just doesn't make sense that they weren't able to play free-flowing football. So what better solution than to get a top-quality coach to manage the immense talent that is on the England national team? Tuchel is a top coach. He had to retire early as a player and went immediately into coaching. His perfectionism and attention to detail was seen right away in his first job at Mainz, helping them finish 9th in his first season, then 5th the season after. At Dortmund, he was able to win the 2017 DFB Pokal after the club finally invested some money to replace the top players that had left, like Hummels, Gundogan, and Mkhitaryan. In 2020, Tuchel won the domestic quadruple with PSG and led them to their first ever Champions League final. Honestly, who knows, maybe if the Turtle had actually finished his chances, Tuchel would have 2 Champions League titles right now. Now I know what you guys are thinking, well, winning Ligue 1 with PSG is hardly an accomplishment, but let me remind you guys that at one point Unai Emery and Mauricio Pochettino failed to win Ligue 1 with PSG. Anyone who had thought getting PSG to a final was a lucky cup run was silenced the next season when Tuchel took Chelsea to the Champions League final, becoming the first coach to reach consecutive finals with 2 different clubs. The German had come in midway through a chaotic season, taking over for Frank Lampard. So no preseason, no recruitment on his own, he just had to use the players at his disposal, and yet he got him to the final of the most prestigious club tournament. Then in the final, he defeated one of, if not the greatest Premier League team we've ever seen in Pep's Manchester City side. What's funny is that Tuchel seemed to just have Pep's number. He had also defeated the Baldy in the FA Cup semi-finals. Tuchel also ended up winning the UEFA Super Cup next season as well as the Club World Cup. Since he has managed in England, he also understands the English media. He's familiar with the culture and an excellent speaker. He knows how the players operate. These sort of things off the pitch matter. This isn't some random appointment. England are getting one of the best managers in the world. Tuchel's only real issue throughout his career has been him constantly getting into fights with upper management. But with England, he doesn't really have to worry about that. There's no transfer budget. He has full freedom to select who he wants and to drop whoever he doesn't want. So if his CV and talent isn't being questioned, why is there backlash towards the appointment? Well, I think it stems from what the signing represents. According to reports, the FA didn't even reach out to an English manager.
I'm reliably told they didn't speak to Eddie Howe or sound him out at all, which is a big surprise for me, considering he would be the outstanding English candidate.
Now, let's say they had reached out. Who would have been the options? Eddie Howe would have been a great appointment, but after him, who else is on the list? Gerrard, Rooney, Lampard? Gerrard might still be a top manager. The Aston Villa job ruined his reputation. But if that jump was too quick, then surely so is the England position. Same thing can be said for Lampard. Can any of you tell me what Gerrard's philosophy is? What Lampard's is? What Rooney's is? You can't. And that's because they haven't spent enough time in management to actually develop one. Maybe you go for Graham Potter. He was very highly sought after and talked about during his time at Brighton. I think a part of it has to do with something I heard Micah Richards say about the media building up young promising English managers, then tearing them down as soon as they do poorly.
I always had the feeling As an Englishman coming through, you get that hype, don't you? For the first couple of years, Micah Richie is going to be whatever. It doesn't quite happen. Then you've got the media who turn against you.
While I definitely think that's true, I also think a part of it comes from the fact that a lot of these former players get jobs purely based on their name and reputation. Think about how Gary Neville got the Valencia job. Meanwhile, De La Fuente has been managing since 1997 before being given the Spain first team position in 2022. Deschamps had been managing Monaco, Juventus, and Marseille before being given the France job. The reality is that no English manager right now is better than Thomas Tuchel. While other nations do hire their own nationality as the coach, all those countries, you have to keep in mind, have a unique style and philosophy. De La Fuente, for example, had managed in Spain throughout his whole career. He knows the principles of Spanish football. If you go right now and ask any youth player in Spain what the pillars of Spanish football are, what are the principles the coach is telling them, what is their style of play, they will all give you the same answer because they're all on the same wavelength. England is still trying to figure out what their philosophy is. Years ago, England were synonymous with long balls and being overly aggressive.
The reason that we've not produced great coaches is the fact that we were stuck in the past in terms of long ball football. We were behind everybody else.
But now you look at their players like Saka, Foden, Palmer, they have some of the most technical players in the world.
We learnt to pass the ball to each other rather than just lump the ball long like we were taught when we were kids.
The coaching is getting better and better, but it's a work in progress. You have managers like Russell Martin of Southampton coming through the ranks, establishing their own play style and philosophy, but it's going to take some time. I would say other countries are ahead of England in terms of having an identity. So for now, I don't see any issues with Tuchel. Whenever he has had talent at his disposal, he has succeeded. He is a great tournament manager, and that's what England need. The talent is there, you just need someone with the ability to get the best out of him. Who better than a tactical innovator that is obsessed with winning? Tuchel is joining a national team that desperately needs a trophy. To see the story of the England national team, all of their disappointments, all the times that they came so close to lifting silverware but didn't, you have to check out this video right here.